Anxiety with Tic Tacs. I don't know about any of you, but when I'm nervous about something, I tend to think about it all day, unless I come up with a complicated medical trick to distract me. And even then, I'm still actually thinking about it by not thinking about it, if that makes any sense. It's like if someone came up to you and said, all right, do whatever you do, don't think about the color red. You'd try to picture the different color and repeat over a recipe over and over in your head, or count to 159, but somewhere in the back of your head, you'd be going yellow, orange, red, go! 3 eggs separated, 5 slices of American cheese, red, dang! 117, 118, look at Renee's red lipstick, arrgh! And that's how my September 7th went. I worked mightily to not think about anything other than Jeffrey's gushing nose, but the distractions were too pointless. In homeroom, after I figured out that my breath was going to present a challenge, I looked in my pockets of my Trapper Keeper to find my box of Tic Tacs, and found that it was about 3/4 full. I quickly popped in a Tic Tac orange, which I'm not even sure helps your breath anyway, and ran off the first period, Miss Palma's class. I did all the usual take out your notebook stuff, but then became lost in my own little don't think about Jeffrey world. I used a trick that is pretty powerful to me. I came up with a really complex math problem to solve in my head. A boy has a box of 40 Tic Tacs, and the box is 3/4 full. The Tic Tacs need to last through the entire day and the bus ride home. The school day has 7 periods. Each period is 45 minutes long, with 3 minutes for passing between the classes. Additionally, there is a 22-minute lunch period and 4-minute afternoon homeroom period. The bus ride takes 15 minutes, including the wait for the bus, boarding, and the actual time in transit. If a boy wants to make his Tic Tacs last until he arrives at home, how many minutes must he wait between Tic Tacs? So while everyone else was writing whatever their day's journal was supposed to be, I was agonizing over the details of this math problem. Well, there are how many periods? 3-minute passing time. 7, not counting one before lunch, so 8. 8 times 3 is 24, plus time in class, which is 45 minutes, times 7. Okay, that's 308 minus minutes right there. And lunch is another 22 minutes, plus the bus is like 15 minutes. Wait, do I have to eat Tic Tacs during class? Who cares about my breath when I'm alone at my desk? But there is group work in some. Stephen, would you like to read your journal entry aloud? No, thank you, Miss Palma. Stephen, I know I phrased that as a question, but it really was a command. Yes, but mine is, private. Private, Stephen? Yes, Miss Palma. Private, Stephen? Again, with the capital letters. Yes, private. Through my haze of math and memory, I gradually noticed that the class was cracking up. Stephen, I respect your privacy as much as the next teacher, but how private can your thoughts on this question be? Well, as it turns out, the topic was, should foreign language be taught in middle school? Things like that happened all day. After math, just as I popped in my 7th Tic Tac, Renee Albert said to me, Stephen, you are so, out of it today. Are you suffering from some kind of traumatic head injury or something? Well, sort of. Are you sort of recovering, or was it sort of an injury? Both. My brother fell off a stool this morning and, oh, sorry, Stephen, I have to go talk to Jenna and Steph. Wait up! While Renee was so attractively speed walking away, Annette suddenly appeared next to me. It wasn't the first time I noticed this, how Renee kind of swished around in a cloud of perfume, and Annette just popped up like some spastic hand puppet. Stephen, I heard about Jeffy. What happened? Annette sometimes watched Jeffrey on the weekends. He fell, and yeah, I heard you telling the princess that part? Well, his head hit the counter in the kitchen and his nose was bleeding. A lot. Yeah, my mom went and charged out with him. They went to the emergency room and now I'm going to be in trouble. But I didn't even do... Is he okay? Was he really scared? I don't know. And the bell rang, which meant I'd be late for my social studies and Annette would be late to science. While Annette ran away down the empty hall, it suddenly hit me that I hadn't even thought about how Jeffrey was feeling. And I didn't really want to think too hard about it because I knew he'd be terrified. Plus, now I had to go get a late pass, which probably meant I'd get detention. So Jeffrey was getting me in trouble again, as usual. The high point in my day was my drum lesson. Well, we have this thing called opportunity period, or OP. It's the last period of the day, and if you don't owe any work in your classes or need tutoring or have detention, you get to do fun stuff. Most of the kids like to go to gym during OP. The track and weight room and the pools are all open, so you can play basketball or volleyball too. But some go to art or choir. And of course, every chance I get, I go to the band room. A few times a week, I used to get individual lessons on the drum set with the band teacher, Mr. Watras, during OP. On this particular day, Mr. W got called to the office for something, so I had about 15 minutes to just play drums with nobody else around. I started out with some simple beats. When my hands and feet started to loosen up, I switched over to this really complicated Latin rhythm I've been working on. It took a lot of concentration to keep all four limbs moving independently of each other, which was perfect. It meant I wasn't thinking about Jeffrey's fall or late passes or even Renee Albert. I was just playing. After keeping the beat going for 5 minutes or so, I burst into a big solo. I always think of it that way. Here comes Steven, burst into his big solo. Watch those hands, they're too quick to follow. Holy cow, this kid is a magician. Like there's a Monday Night Football commentator standing over my left shoulder. Anyway, I was really flying. I started with both hands doing a kind of shuffled march on the snare drum pretty quietly. So as I gradually got louder, I started flicking the little quick shots on the high tom. Then I threw in some big bombs with my bass drum foot. Soon I had incredibly fast paradiddle going between my left hand and my right foot. While my left foot was keeping time on the hi-hat, cymbals, and my right hand were going back and forth between the ride cymbal and the floor tom. The door opened and I opened my eyes and looked up. I never open my eyes when I'm practicing by myself. My private teacher always used to say, if I don't know where the drums are, you probably are playing the wrong instrument. Mr. W was back. Behind him, I could see a few kids I didn't know, probably 6th graders on their way somewhere, looking in. They started clapping when I looked their way, which was pretty cool. I hadn't been showing off on purpose, but I can't say I minded the applause. I stood up and took a quick bow for them. Mr. W smiled and complimented me on my showmanship. That's another cool thing about music. If you show off in sports, you're a hot dog, but if you show off in class, you're a brainiac. But if you show off in drumming, people love it. Mr. W told me my Latin rhythm was sounding a little stiff and put on a CD for me to listen to. This is an old jazz album by Dizzy Gillespie. This should help you out. It's a cat named Dizzy. He said cat. Music teachers have their own lingo. Dizzy Gillespie, the trumpet player, right? My grandfather once told me about him. Yeah, this is called Cuba B, Cuba Bop. When the tune came on, I couldn't believe it. There were probably about 5 drummers on the track. They were going crazy. The conga drum player was especially wild, playing this insane fill-in all over the place. At the same time, the trumpeters were blasting like a herd of elephants, with Dizzy's horn flying above everyone else. Just then, when it seemed there couldn't possibly be any way to get more energy into the music, everyone stopped playing except the conga guy. The man's voice started chanting in what sounded like Spanish. The chant got faster and faster. The congas got louder and louder, and a whole chorus of men came in, shouting, Cuba beat, Cuba bop. Over and over, the horns all roared back to life. Then one last explosion from the conga player, and the song was over. Could you feel that, Pez? Mr. W, the conductor of the All-City High School Jazz Band, which is how I got in, he knew the nickname Peasant bugged me. So one day he started calling me Pez, for short, which was much better. Could I feel it? Oh my God, that was the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. Good. You have about 7 months to get that conga part down. What do you mean? Well, I've decided the spring concert is going to be all Latin music, and that song is going to be the finale. Would you like to play congas on it? Of course. I was dying to play that part, but Mr. W is one of those rare teachers who can actually take a joke. Oh, I don't know, Mr. W. I was really hoping to play the cowbell on it, or maybe, I don't know, the triangle. Get out of here, kid. You're going to miss your bus. I triumphantly popped my second-to-last tic-tac into my mouth and strolled out of the room, whistling Cuba Bee, Cuba Bop. My temporarily good cheer lasted until I got to the bus. Renee Albert caught my eye. Oh, well, okay, she always catches my eye, and spoke. How's the brain injury? Which brought me back to reality really, really fast. I kept going down the back of the bus without saying anything to Renee and sat down next to Annette. I had planned on telling her about Cuba Bee, Cuba Bop, but now my mind was back on Jeffy. I heard that, Steven. It's really cool you're confident enough to just ignore her. Ignore her? I didn't ignore her. I'm just too stupid to think of a comeback. And now I have to go home and find out what happened to my brother and how long I'll be grounded for making breakfast. What? Long story. When Jeffy fell this morning, I was making him oatmeal. I had him up on the stool, and my mom thinks that he shouldn't be there unless somebody's like an inch and a half away. So if he needed stitches or something, even though I was being nice by making him what he wanted while the rents were sleeping, I'm going to get blamed. Well, your mom was right in a way. What do you mean? He did fall, right? So he wasn't safe on the stool. Thanks, Annette. Thanks a lot. That's exactly what I needed to hear right now. You're a very inspiring person. You know that? I was just trying to what? Show me the light so I can be saved from being such a horrible brother, so little angel Jeffy can be safe from my evil cooking schemes. I didn't mean to make you feel bad. Well, you did. I've been worrying about this all stupid day. By this point, we were pulling to my stop. I got up and stormed off the bus, but had to wait while Renee got her stuff together in the middle of the aisle. Plus, Renee took her time walking off, too, so I had to plod along behind her. It's hard to storm off and shuffle at the same time, let me tell you. When we got off the bus, I watched Renee glide away. Then I looked up at Annette as the bus started to move. Maybe it was the slanted fall sun glaring on the window, but it almost looked like she was crying. Great. I let myself into the house and found my mom standing in the foyer, like she had been waiting for me. When I might be in trouble. I usually try to speak first, but the rents start in on me. So I plunged right in. Mom, I've been worried all day. Is Jeffrey okay? She said in a strange, soft voice, Stephen, your brother is really sick. Was it because the fall this morning had nothing to do with it? Whew, I'm off the hook. But he's really sick. And this was the absolute worst thing about last October 7th, and the moment I'd never forget myself for. My mother began to tell me that my baby brother had leukemia. My first feeling was relief.